Well, welcome back to another episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. Today, one of our coaching team members has another commitment, so she's not going to be with us, which is really bad because this particular topic falls greatly under her. So, we're going to do the best we can without Randy being along today for the ride. So, anyway, what brought this up is a few days ago, I saw an article that was published by my friend Randy Pennington. And Randy Pennington is a guy that's renowned as one of the culture experts in the U.S., works with a lot of companies. Cheryl and I have actually mentored under him and utilized him as a coach in helping us in building what we do. But Randy said the following, and it was all about respect by people. He said his curiosity was sparked and he discovered a study that had been by a leadership development platform called Better Up. And what it talked about was that people who feel respected and valued in the company, he sees that there is a 56% increase in job performance, a 50% increase in retention probability, and a 75% reduction in sick leave use. And those numbers are pretty astounding because it all relates down to waste, hiring people, and the problem that we all have, which is retaining people. Because in today's world, there's a really big challenge in the hiring aspect, but also in the retention, where we're seeing that the average career for many people is under 2 years for working with a company. And I would say that this is often the number one challenge that's presented to us is getting people to stay on the jobs. And like I said, that falls under Brandy's expertise because she does one of the things that she's professed that we talked about is the stay interview to find out if people are there. So Cheryl, what's your thoughts on this about the respect of building value where employees feel respected? Do you see this as an issue with people in the real world?
It's a huge issue. Even in the hiring process, I get asked many times, does this company respect their employees? And a lot of times, the majority of my clients do, some not so much as others. But the thing is, this is what especially we all like to be valued. I mean, every human being, but more so now than I think it was in the past.
Yeah. So, Josh, what about you? In your past, you have been a GM and you still are, you're a general manager of Tri County Energy. You grew up in this industry. You faced the frustrations of people not staying with you. Hey, get good people in, and all of a sudden, one day they're gone. So, what's your feeling on this building respect and a value amongst your workforce?
Um, well, I, I don't feel like I'm the most qualified person on this topic. Um, where Brandy's the most qualified person, so I'm here under protest
I
today.
hear you. In fact, we started to title this session today, Don't Do What Josh Does.
Um, I mean, I've changed my ways over time. I don't, I no longer, you know, lose my cool with people. Um, I mean, part of that, of course, for me is why I don't lose my cool is because I have if and then scenarios written out in SOPs, so we know how to react to situations. Um, I'm not, when some of these people are, that are better, just natural leaders for me, I always sit back and look at them in awe. Then they look at me in awe that I can sit and write SOPs all day and figure systems out. Um, I, I don't know what to really say on this.
I got you covered. And I understand. That's what I mean. But this is a challenge, and it is a challenge. And part of it comes up because we're dealing with the difference in generations. And we have to face it. Cheryl and I, we're both out of the baby boomer generation, and understanding people that are in the millennial age group and the Generation Z and the Generation X is a difficult task. Would you agree, Cheryl?
very hard. It took, we've been working at it. It's actually work because it's a whole new, I guess, a whole new ball game is the best way to put it. We're playing with a different field of players than we've ever played with before.
Right. And what I see, because I travel around, I do SWAT meetings with companies, and it's really, you can sense this when you walk on site. Recently, we had a guy on here. His name was Anthony Valerio, and Anthony has a company called Four Winds Masonry, Four Winds Chimney in Rochester, New York. And when we interviewed, it was all about a presentation that Anthony had done at the National Chimney Sweep Guild Convention, and the title was People Above Profit. And we even, when you're around his people, it's like this is a group of people that are willing to take a bullet for the guy. It's really unreal. I don't know if it's the charisma he carries, but I also see that he provides respect for each and every person. Cheryl, what did you get? Because Anthony is one of these guys that has done this. So what did you get from listening to Anthony?
Well, he goes the extra mile to make sure that the people are at the top of his employees are at the top of his list of things to deal with. The good thing he has going, he's a lot nearer their age. He has kids, so he sees it coming in from that direction. I'll be real honest. I don't know if I could go back and step where Josh is at right now. It would be extremely hard. I know I could do it, but it's just like I say, where he has been able to take it to another step, and I I enjoyed what he had to say. I thought that was a real good interview. I think anybody that watches our program and missed it needs to go back and pick it up.
Definitely. So, Josh, you were on the interview we did with Anthony. Is he one of these guys that you would say you admire for the way that he has been able to establish this relationship with his people?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, he's way more uh, charismatic, and he. I just don't have that. I hate to use the word caring because I care about people, but he just cares about his people more than anything, and um, yeah, it's just I've been running the business through systems, and he's running it through people, so it's just a totally different mindset for me.
Yeah. And Cheryl, another person that we've had on here and we both know personally and we've been to his business is Tommy Mello. And when you look at Tommy's people, what was the sense you got whenever we visited Tommy and toured his facility last year?
Well, let's put it this way. Tommy's put a lot of money into his facility, but he's put way more money into his employees. And it's not just the money, it's the feeling. He has a company that they do things together. They're like a huge family. His turnover is nowhere near like a lot of the companies around because people don't want to leave. It was, and you can feel it when you go in. It's not that you can just see it. I can see it from the hiring aspect and stuff like that, but it's just a different feeling. You feel the closeness, is that a good way, of the group. You feel the culture going on. But Tommy's really into it for the people, and he helps people that don't even work for him. I think that's what I admire him a whole lot.
Yeah. And one of the things and when we interviewed Tommy last time, it was about his new book, Elevate. And if you remember, one of the things he did was he considered every employee to be a customer of the company. Do you remember that, Cheryl?
I do, and that's the way you have to look at it.
Yeah. So when you look at it, the book that he has written, Elevate, is definitely one that can help you get there. But like I said, I want to get back to Randy because Randy is what inspired us or inspired me to suggest this as today's topic. And he has 5 different things that he recommends that you do. And the first is respect. I'm going to read this paragraph that Randy wrote. This is the most basic level of demonstrating that another person has values. The examples of individuals not treating others with respect aside, Respect is the foundation on which all positive and personal relationships are built. Respecting those who look, think, and believe like us is a starting point. However, honoring diversity, promoting equity, and practicing inclusion with those who don't match the image we see when we look in the mirror is the ultimate respect. And Cheryl, do you see people that this is a major failing where they cannot respect the other person because they may have a different political view, religious view, or other things?
You see it a lot. A lot of it comes, and you know, I'm going to have to click here into your behavioral analysis because we're not all geared the same. I mean, Josh said it right a while ago. He is not geared like, say, Randy or like
Yeah.
others. And I'm not either. You know, I probably care as much or more than a lot of people, but sometimes I'm negative of the respect that I need to give someone because my mind's clicking on something else. And for that, you know, I apologize to everybody that I do respect you. I don't show it like I ought to.
Yeah. So, Josh, is that difficult for you also, where people have a different opinions? They have a different political viewpoint. Is that hard for you as a leader to get past?
No, not at all. Matter of fact, when before I joined on, I hired Brandy specifically for that reason.
So you hired Brand. Okay, so I think that was an important point. You recognize that you actually brought Brandy on staff to work with your own office team members to try to make this respect, to make this happen. Am I reading you correctly?
Yeah, and training, and I mean, she you know, Brandy has excellent, you know, what I call soft skills or soft people skills. You know, where mine are on the opposite end. You know, there's a scale, and Brandy's, you know, up here and I'm down here at the bottom. Sorry, you can't see my hands, but um, you know, you know, again, that's why I sought out Brandy when she got into coaching. It's like I knew she's completely opposite political. Um, you know, she's very much, she loves her paper. I'm very much paperless. So no, I welcome those opinions because I know I personally have, I know I have my tunnel vision. I know I have weaknesses. Um, so no, to me, I've always kind of known that, and I've been always very open with that.
Got you. So the next thing, and Randy calls this level two appreciation and recognition. And again, I really want to, express out here that Randy, what we're talking about today is what Randy wrote, because I think he's got significant things here. But he said these behaviors in the workplace are often tied to praise for effort and results. In other words, are we giving people the praise they do, the pat on the backs they need? This is a part of it, and there's no doubt that acknowledging and rewarding another's contribution promotes belonging and feeling valued. Appreciation and recognition can also mean we recognize and appreciate the experience and perspective others bring to the task, even though it's different than our own. And yeah, this was the whole thing. As we were younger, we were taught that the inspiration was to work was, hey, you're getting paid, do the job. How high do I need, jump? And the question was, how high do I need to jump? And today's answer is, why are we jumping? And so a lot of it goes down to communication. Cheryl, as you heard me read that, what thoughts went through your mind?
Oh, I grew up in that generation too. You would never have asked somebody why. You just did it. But I think the respect, our recognition, we all like the recognition. I don't need the pat on the back. But it's good every now and then. But a lot of people do. They need to know. They literally need to know, not just assume that you care about them and that you recognize that you appreciate what they're doing. In fact, my thing on Wednesday was on appreciation. Do we appreciate people enough? Do you say it enough? And a lot again. I think the generations changed a lot. Randy's got a lot. He's like Brandy. He has a lot of soft sided knowledge, which I think is super. I wish I had more of it, as Josh does. I think you came from that world. I'm going to call it a cold world, and it was because we worked because that was what we were supposed to do, and we didn't expect anything for it more so than just a paycheck.
Yeah. And whenever we worked with Randy, we actually worked with three people. It was Randy, it was Scott McCain, it was Larry Wingate. And would you say that those three had definite points of view in the way that they looked at things? And when you asked the question, did we get often three different answers?
Randy Pennington is Randy is much like Brandy. Scott is kind of a Duke's mixture, but Lord help, the other one is identical to us. He is straight laced and not a backpacker.
It was really interesting because I find it was 2 years ago this week, you and I actually interviewed Larry Wingate, which was the last interview he has done that he was ever going to do. And definitely, and it is. So many times they disagreed, and Larry had his version of culture, and Randy had his, and Scott had his.
But
The next thing, go ahead.
Where that comes in really good, you see that no way is totally wrong. Each has their values. Um, and I think they all valued people. I really do. It was just three different ways of looking at it.
Right. Next thing Randy wrote about was involvement and inclusion. And this is one of the things I learned from Randy, which is, and I use this in my own coaching practice today, which is if you are going to have change in a business, you've got to include your people in that change. They've got to be involved in making the decisions about that change. Josh, as you hear me say that, what's the thoughts in your mind? I mean, we take a company and they've hired you to implement SOPs, to build a digital knowledge base, what we've called a wiki page in the past. But part of this is the workforce has to buy into this. So what's your thought on this about involving them?
I think it's important to get them to help write the SOPs. And I think it's very important because I find that, well, I have a staff that's totally bought in on it now. I found that people that weren't willing to write them were always worried you were going to replace them. And they ended up not being a good fit for the company because they were always wanting a crutch. I try and get them in on planning decisions, especially when it comes to showroom stuff. Like, hey, let's talk about product mixes. What can we sell? What can we not sell? Because let's be honest, I'm on the showroom floor once a month, so I don't really have my pulse on it anymore. I've tasked them with how to build out the new displays. Like, okay, so what do you want to see? What's going to sell? What do you want to do on these displays?
Okay. So Cheryl, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm going to take it into personal. I'm going to pull off business for just a second. We grew up in an age where children weren't included, where a lot of times where the wives weren't included. Being a female, I know coming from that way, yeah, it hurts a little when you weren't back in that time. So you bring that forward into the work situation and realize that all those people that you exclude have feelings, they have thoughts. And the thing about including people into the decisions is a lot of times their answers are better than yours. So I found out that if you include everyone, a lot of times you come up with some really good things that you can use in your company. So I think that's one super thing. Number one, it helps them, but also it helps the company.
Yeah. And the next, which Randy labels as level 4, is investment. At its most basic, investment means that you promote learning and growth. This can mean providing regular feedback, proactively supporting development, and providing mentorship for advancement. And it's also a more advanced level is investment in the relationship. It's investing enough to learn about and recognize what is important to others. And it's one of the things I remember from Tommy Mello's interview. where Tommy talks about getting to know the wife, getting to know the family, getting to know about his people, and having a personal relationship with each of those people. So, investing into your people, I think that's what I see a lot of these progressive people doing. So, investment, Cheryl, do you see where investing in your people involves your time and your commitment to seeing them get to where they want to go?
Definitely, because as we all know, without the people in the company, you have no company. That's where the profits come from. So take a little bit of the profit, and I don't mean always dollars, but your time, your anything that's going, that you've got that you can invest back into them. I think all three of us are big on training. We think that's good. I think we need to invest time and training into the people as well as just getting to know them. We need to let them get to know everything we know also.
Yeah. Josh, you got anything to add to that?
I like to invest through personally education. I just feel like, I just had two guys complete the CSIA masonry class, which, as you know, is very expensive. Um, to me, I think that's how I like to invest in people, obviously, is through education. I mean, that's how whether that's correct or not, remains to be the same. But I like to empower, people. That's why I built the whole, website and things like that.
Yeah. And the next one is the word you just said, which is empowerment. And Randy says empowerment isn't abdication, but it's an important indicator that others are valued. It means demonstrating so much confidence in the individual's competence and character that we are willing to let them fail in pursuit of achieving a shared vision and living shared goals. So that's what Randy said about empowerment. So it was amazing that you said empowerment there. And then he has number 6, which is a trusted and valued partner. And that's where you've got to make people feel as if they are a partner in the business. The success of the business concerns them. So, Cheryl, what's your thought process there?
I mean, you have to do it. This is where you bring a group of people into a group of trusted, loyal people, and that's where the loyalty comes in my book. If you can trust them and make them a valued partner, you've got the loyalty that'll last. What we're seeing in some of the companies that are doing really good right now.
Yeah. So, Josh, what about you? Do you see where making them a partner of sorts in the business is a critical part of making this happen?
Absolutely. I think, having a partner means actually just taking less stress off of the ownership and management.
Okay. Sounds like a winner. And here's one of the things I see also. And again, this is from observation of what in the field. I've seen where people have had long-term employees, and then for some reason, the employee no longer feels valued. I've seen this happen with quite a few companies where they feel like they're not respected as they were one day because the company made changes and the changes did not involve them in making the change. Cheryl, when I say that, does that bring anything to light for you?
It does, and I think it's kind of like are the you looking more at the new employees at that time, trying to make that work out, instead of trying to also keep your older, and I say older, not age, but longer term employees involved. I think we all see the new penny a lot of times, and it looks shinier than the old one.
Yeah. So, Josh, anything you would add in on this before we end today's broadcast? Because I got one other guy I want to quote on here for what he's saying.
No, I don't.
Okay, good. Cheryl, what about you?
I was reading, and I know you're getting ready to do Max Story stuff, and I'm going to let you go forward with it. I saw some good points in there. If you don't cover one, I'll pick it up. How's that?
Yeah. And so Mike Story is another guy, And I met him through my John Maxwell affiliation. And we actually have had Mac and his wife, Rhea, on here, and I've interviewed them before. But he works with blue collar teams. And this is what he said: when their teams won't buy in, most leaders become reactive, trying to correct the things that are going wrong. The result is they get stuck in a continuous cycle of frustration. Proactive leaders go deeper in an effort to help things go right so they won't have to correct them. So, what does all this mean? If leaders can correct, they must teach and communicate. If they can't teach and communicate, it means the people won't listen. If the leader can't teach and communicate effectively, the leader must choose to listen and learn, ask questions, gather feedback. So, what he's talking about here is how to be what he calls a high impact leader. And a high impact leader builds a high impact workforce. So, Mac also is a story. Mac's story is also a guy that you can listen to and get ideas on how to build this strength up and build the culture in your workforce. So, Cheryl, would you pull anything out of that?
The thing I liked what he said the best is if the leader can't build a relationship with the people, the leader must quit blaming the people, start looking in the mirror, start asking themselves the tough questions, and start doing the hard work of becoming a leader worth following.
That's very true. So, anyway, this is an idea for you to consider for today about how to build the culture up within your workforce. And what the experts are saying, what you've got to do is you've got to build a sense of belonging for your people. You've got to make them feel that they are a partner, and you've got to involve them in the changes as you go forth. And if you can do that, what you're going to do is you're going to build a culture driven business that is definitely going to be succeeding, and hopefully get to the point where people are knocking on your door right and left and they want to join your team. Cheryl, anything in closing?
No, I think we've pretty well covered it. All I can say is just look, as Max said, look in the mirror and see if you're that leader that's needed. And if not, start working on it.
Okay, Josh, when we started this, you said this really was not an area of expertise for you. So, what did you learn in this last 30 minutes?
More about making people feel valued and buy in, really.
That's it.
Trying to, and the kind of a joke with me and some of the technicians who are a little bit more thicker skinned, when they complete a big project, and I lead off with, "Wow, that's really awesome." And I said the truth. And I said, "What I really want to say is congratulations for doing your job."
Okay.
Because that's just how I was raised. Like, no, well, you're supposed to do a good job. Like, that's why you're being paid.
That's it. Well, we hope this has been helpful to you. We hope you've got some ideas from today's broadcast. We are CVC Success Group, and we present the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network every week to pass along great ideas, concepts. And I think today's subject matter, what Randy has written, what Mac's Story's written, are definite lessons that each of us use. So I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been an honor, it's been a privilege, and it's been a pleasure. And we'll see you next time on the next